name is Shannon. I go by Quilty on the list, and I have a few things to share with you. The first thing I'd like to tell you about is what I do when I very first start knitting. I like to make sure that my machine is level. Seems like we have so many problems with that. And this was a tip that I saw on my Bond ribber tape that I just thought was really slick. Take a long length of your ravel cord, something that's going to be long enough to go the length of your machine plus. I tie my ravel cord down here to the bracket, go up and over all the way to the opposite end and come down. If you hold it taut, you'll be able to see if there's any bow to your machine. If there was any kind of a space in here, then I would know that I need to brace that up with some cards or cardboard, and that will help me get started with some smooth knitting. I promised that I would share a pattern out of the Gifts and Toys book. I can't give you the exact pattern, but if you have the book, then you'll have the pattern. This is the book, and we're going to work on just the basic Christmas stocking. That'll give you an idea on how heels and toes are formed. It's just some real straightforward knitting, but you could add any kind of ferrule or motifs in intarsia, but it'd be a nice quick little gift to maybe stash a special Christmas present. I'm going to stop temporarily and set up my machine with my waste yarn. It'd be the same thing that you'd use yourself. Okay, I've cast it on an open cast on edge. I've knitted the number of rows that it requires of me, and now I'm to rehang my stitches for a hung hem. So slowly but surely I will pick up the stitches using a good contrasting yarn. Being sure to catch at this very outside stitch. I hope you can see that. Raise it up. Put the stitches on the needles. There's now 2 stitches on each needle. The pattern suggests that you use your 3-prong transfer tool, but I feel like I can work better with my 2-prong. And I proceed like this across the row. In the pattern, it asks you to start at the left and work your way across to the right. But to me, things get so cattywampus that I just as soon do a little bit on the left, a little bit on the right, and work my way in. I also found that by putting my green card back behind my needles, pushing my initial work behind the latches, it opens the latches and allows me to get behind my work and lift the needles without so much struggle. Lift the stitches onto the needles without so much of a struggle. Not trying to open the latches and do everything at one time. This has helped me out a lot because it seems like I always need an extra hand. Now I have stitches in my hooks and stitches behind the latches. My next instructions tell me to push the stitches all back behind the latches, which again the green cards come in handy. To hold things in place, gently push everything back into working position, making sure that all the latches are open. Otherwise, of course, you'll drop your stitches. My instructions now tell me to knit 1 row across. we have accomplished our hem at the top of the stocking now. You might have noticed that I'm not knitting on the Bond ISM. What I'm using is the Knit Smart machine. It's so much identical to the ISM. I really like it because the carriage is just enough different. There is no fabric guard. It has this plastic fairing instead. Makes it really handy for loading and unloading the yarn. And that's what I'm going to do next. I'm required to change to my red yarn. I've changed my color, and as you can see, I've started knitting with my red. I have to proceed a certain number of rows, and then we'll get into the heel. I don't think you want to watch me knitting straight, so I'm going to turn off the tape again. But before I do that, I'd like to share with you another tip that has helped me immensely with my weights. Most often, when we put our claw weights on, or I always had, I put them out here into my knitting all the way. But I found that if you leave at least, say, 1 or 2 teeth on your claw weights hanging over the edge, it has better balance and they don't tend to pull in as quickly. I'm going to knit my solid rows and then we'll proceed to the heel. Now I'm ready to start the heel, and my instructions have told me to change back to my white yarn. It also tells me that I'm going to be doing my shaping on the carriage side, and I will move the first needle on my carriage side out into holding position. I have also, by my instructions, been told to put a certain amount of needles into holding on the right hand side. My pattern actually wants me to do the shaping on the other side, but so that you can see it better, I'm going to do the shaping on this side. Makes it different which direction your seam will be and which direction your sock will tilt, but it really doesn't make a difference on this particular stocking. So I'm ready to start with my shaping. I push this needle into holding. Now I'm going to come across and that has put that needle into holding, and it's come over, and it's telling me to keep doing this, pushing one needle into next to the carriage side into holding position, and then knit across. And we're going to start seeing a difference in the knitting here that we're going to have to be sure that we put extra weights on, otherwise we're going to have stitches coming off. This way the yarn is going to automatically wrap since I've already knitted past this stitch. And again, on the carriage side, putting one needle into holding position. It's already starting to get loose here, so I'm going to have to start adding some weights across. This will help keep that extra bulk into place, and I won't have stitches falling off every time I turn around. You'll have to move your weights up as you go. One needle out and knit back. My instructions told me to continue knitting in that manner until there were 12 stitches in working position in the center. And that's where I'm at now. You can see the pooch of the heel has started. And if I didn't have the weights on, my stitches would just all but pop out of the needles. So I took my claw weights off so you could see that. I like to always keep a weight right under the stitches that the needles, that I'm getting ready to put back into position. And that's the next thing my instructions tell me, is now to return by reversing my shaping by pushing one needle on the opposite side of the carriage into forward working position on each row, which that would be the opposite side of my carriage. I'm going to push one back. I'm going to work my way back and forth until I get all needles back into working position. Get my yarn into place. That one was a little tough because you have to have claw weights when you're working on socks. I'm going to return this needle now. Make sure your latches are open. I'm going to return another needle on the opposite side of the carriage. Trying to make sure, sometimes it's just as easy to hold down with your fingers. Stitches are starting to get a little bit loose there. Opposite side of the carriage. I'm going to move up my weight. Pull down. Just helps to seat your stitches. Latch open, needle back, opposite side of the carriage. And continue on until all stitches are back into working. I've finished the shaping and all my needles on this side are back into work again. You can see again we've got the nice pooch. I have developed my heel and my instructions told me to change back to my red yarn, returning the needles on this side into working position and knit 30 rows. I'm going to do that and then we will shape the toe. I did forget to tell you, before you come back across with this new color or you're starting into actually the instep area, you have to put some weight back in this area. If you don't, stitches are going to pop off everywhere. The shaping for the toe is identical to the heel. We start by putting the stitch closest to the carriage, or the needle, into forward position, knitting across. We're going to continue as we did before. Keep putting one needle closest to the carriage into forward working position before going across until we have 12 stitches is my pattern in working position, and then we'll reverse and bring the toe back down. It's very simple. Once you get on with socks, it's not bad at all. Learning how to use your weights, I think, is the biggest challenge, and knowing that you've got to stop moving up, move them over, etc. I'll go ahead and leave the tape running while I shape the toe.